All right, so welcome to the stream today. Really excited for having you as we continue with our discussion for the July 2024 examination. Monday, we started with a discussion where we spoke about various things that you need to understand, sharing about four thoughts or four strategies with you in that regard. Give me a sec. I don't know where I'm getting that feedback from. What the heck? Okay. I think I've seen where it's coming from. It's coming from link my LinkedIn feed. All right, so welcome to the stream. Really excited. Sorry about the feedback. Let's get into the discussion quickly. So what we want to do today is to go on with the discussion that we started with on Monday. Yesterday, we released a video in relation to the various things that you people asked me about, focusing specifically on the accounting standards for the financial reporting students and the corporate reporting students. And so today, what I want to do is to also walk you through an overview subject by subject. All right, so we're going to be doing an overview subject by subject and provide you with some strategies and techniques that you need to really implement to take your life to the next level to be able to pass the examination. I see some of you guys joining. You are welcome. Give us a thumbs up on the video, but most importantly, put in the comment section, the chat for me, any questions you have, something you want me to share my thought on. I'll be willing to provide you with some ideas generally in that case. Now, one thing you must understand is this, that certainly you cannot be 100% prepared for the examination. In other words, you can't know everything in the syllabus. And so the question you need to ask yourself is, okay, how do I optimize my studies to ensure that at least I am 90% or 95% ready for this exam? Yes, there are certain things definitely you will study them, but you will not understand them, or you may even see them in the exam hall, and for some reason, you wouldn't be able to answer it. But how do you position yourself? What do you do so that you go into the exam hall well prepared so you can answer about 90 or 95% of the questions that the examiner is going to be giving to you? That is exactly what I want to discuss with you today. Walk you through some blueprints to really help you so that you can go in there, write the exams, and pass the examination. So I'm going to do subject by subject. Let me know any subjects you are writing. You can put it in the comment section for me, and I'm going to be taking subject by subject and provide you with some understanding on how you can optimize your studies as we get into the discussion. So let's say that I'm writing management accounting, right? Let's say I'm writing management accounting. So if I'm writing management accounting, how do I optimize myself to be able to pass the examination? Because there is a lot that I need to go through in management accounting. If you're writing management accounting, there is a lot you need to go through. But how do you optimize yourself so that you can increase the chances of passing the examination? And that is the first thing I want us to look at. So 90% of the syllabus, what are the things you have to focus on? The first thing you need to understand is that a subject like management accounting, there are some fundamental principles that you need to understand. Whether you like it or not, as far as you are walking into the examination for the management accounting, you need to understand cost classification. This is a fundamental principle. Now, this is where we classify costs according to their nature. So we have the elements of cost, which is material cost, labor cost, and overheads. Then we're going to be classifying costs according to their behavior. Very important as well. But this is where we have fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable, and semi-fixed cost. Then you need to find out, okay, how do we split total cost into fixed and variable cost? That means we have to use the high and low method. So fundamentally, if you are going into the exam hall for management accounting, you have to understand cost classification. Under that topic of cost classification also, you are able to learn about the cost sheet or the cost card preparation, where we bring the direct material cost, direct labor cost, direct expenses. The summation of all direct costs gives us the prime cost, and then you can add your factory overheads, so you get a factory or production cost. After that, we can then add non-production overheads, then we get a total cost of the product. After we get a total cost of the product, we then go ahead to add our factory margin or our margin or markup, so we can get a selling price or the quoted price. So as a management accounting student walking into the exam hall, the first thing that you have to understand, the first thing fundamentally is cost classification, because there is a lot of discussion there. Then we come to the issue in respect of accounting for overheads. Very important. And so this is where we are going to be looking at how we allocate overheads, how we apportion the overheads, because when it comes to overhead apportionment, this is where we look at the preparation of the overhead analysis sheet. So you have to know how you will prepare the overhead analysis sheet and the basis of apportionment of various overhead items. So if we are looking at something like canteen cost as an overhead, how do we apportion canteen cost? We can use the number of employees in each cost center or each department, or we can use the number of meals served to each department. How do we apportion insurance of the building? We can use the floor area occupied. How do we apportion rent? We can use again the floor area occupied. How do we apportion electricity bills to the various departments of the organization? We can use the meter reading for each of the departments, or better still, sometimes weird though, but we can still use the floor area occupied. And so overhead allocation, how we charge overheads to a particular cost center or cost unit. Then overhead apportionment, that is how we are sharing overheads among cost centers and cost units within the organization using a fair basis of absorption. Using a fair basis of apportionment. So that is very important, because you can have a 10 marks question where the examiner is asking you to prepare the overhead analysis sheet. So you have to know how to prepare the overhead analysis sheet. Now, at the end of the period, what is going to be happening is that the service department exists to serve the production department or the main department of the organization. So it is possible for us to reapportion the service cost to the various departments, and that is called reapportionment of overheads. So under accounting for overheads, these are all fundamentals. Okay? And if your fundamentals are weak, when you get to the exam, you're going to screw yourself up. All right? Not the one when your fundamentals are weak, the one exchange rate will expose you. Nah, that's not what we're talking about here. But if your fundamentals are weak, ICA will expose you, because you're going to see the questions and you're going to screw it up generally, right? Which you don't want to screw up. And so under the accounting for overhead, overhead allocation, overhead apportionment. Then we go to the third one, that is overhead absorption. And so this is where one fundamental principle comes to town, and that is absorption costing, where we are going to be calculating the overhead absorption rate and absorb the overhead using various bases of absorption. Okay? And so this is very important. So absorption costing. But there is a limitation on the absorption costing. What is the limitation? Using the absorption costing, what happens is that it's like a generalized factory-wide overhead absorption rate that is applied to all the cost centers and cost units. And so to accurately determine the overhead that each of the departments or cost centers have incurred, an alternative school of thought will be used, which is activity-based costing, ABC. So under activity-based costing, what we are doing is, yes, we are still apportioning the overheads, but we are now doing it based on the activities that each of the departments or cost centers have actually undertaken. So under activity-based costing, you're going to be identifying the cost pool. Then you come to the cost drivers. Okay, the cost pool are the major activities. The cost drivers are the activities which causes the cost. So if we take a hospital, for instance, what are the major activities of the hospital? Maybe surgery, maybe administration, maybe nursing, because when people are admitted, they will be nursed. I mean, their bed will be changed, they will be looked after, and all of those things. Those will be major activities. If it is a manufacturing company, then the major activities are going to be issues in relation to ordering of inventories, production setup, dispatching of orders, and all of these things. Now, I see some of you guys joining. We are looking at the key issues that we have to cover in each subject, and I'm starting with management accounting, right? So any subject you are writing, you can put it in the comment section for me. I'm going to come to that, and I'll provide you with the blueprint on the 90% maximum area, how to optimize yourself so you can go into the exam hall and pass the exam with ease. So activity-based costing, you'd identify the cost pool, identify the cost drivers, then you calculate the overhead absorption rate, then you allocate the overhead. Once you allocate the overhead, you'll be able to now calculate the total overhead for each of the cost centers or cost units within the organization. And so that is activity-based costing, right? So activity-based costing is opposite of absorption costing. But in between these guys is the marginal costing principle, which says that we are focusing on contribution. And so under that, contribution is selling price minus variable cost, and profit is going to be contribution minus fixed cost. But under the absorption costing, if we are preparing the profit statement, we are going to be interested in the gross profit. So it's going to be sales minus cost of sales to give us gross profit. Then with less non-production overheads, boom, we are able to get the net profit in that case. So these are fundamentals. So before you tell yourself, oh, I'm starting to study management accounting. Oh, I'm looking at this. Oh, I'm walking into the management accounting examination. You have to understand everything under cost classification. You have to understand everything under accounting for overheads. But most importantly is marginal costing principle, absorption costing principles, activity-based costing principles. Then you have to understand the principle of high and low, because high and low method has to do with how we're going to be splitting total cost into the fixed and variable. And that principle is applicable throughout the syllabus and the various topics. So that is our fundamentals. Once you are okay with these fundamentals, management accounting becomes easy. Why? Because from there, we go to a major topical area of the syllabus, and that is short-term decisions. There's a 20-mark question. If the examiner doesn't get excited, then 15-mark question in the exam hall waiting for you on short-term decisions. And there are a lot of short-term decisions you have to know about. Limiting factor analysis, where the entity is having less inputs or resources than it requires. So how can the entity use the less resources to optimize its profit? Limiting factor analysis, throughput accounting, it's also in that picture. Then we'll talk about relevant costing analysis or relevant cost analysis. What does that mean? If we receive a one-off contract or a special order, how do we determine the cost of that one-off contract or that special order? We use relevant costing principle. Okay, the entity is thinking about making product in-house or buying them from outside. Okay, how do they make that decision? That is make or buy. We are going to be looking at that. Okay, there is a department or a product line of the company that is making losses, and so the entity is contemplating whether to continue to maintain that product line or shut it down. And so that leads us to shut down decision. Then we will look at break-even analysis as well. So under short-term decisions, there are a lot of things there. Limiting factor analysis, make or buy, shut down, break-even analysis, relevant cost analysis. All of these, you can do them well if you understand the marginal costing principle, which means you are going to be only considering the relevant cost, and we are going to be using the marginal costing principle. And so short-term decisions. And each of these short-term decisions have their own principles. But if you understand the marginal costing principle well and understand that I am focusing on contribution, I understand that you are going to be looking at the relevant cost of making the decision, boom, you'll be able to excel in the short-term decisions. Then budgeting and budgetary control. There's a question waiting for you under budgeting. Either you're going to be preparing the functional budget, which is the budget for each of the departments of the organization, or the master budget, which is the cash budget, budgeted income statement, and budgeted statement of financial position. So it depends on how excited the examiner is, but that is budgeting. Then you come to the issue in respect of variance analysis, standard costing and variance analysis. So we have the basic variances and then the advanced variances. You have to know about all of those things. But this is it. When you get to variance analysis, calculation of the factory, the overhead variance, and then the sales quantity variance, you would have to be mindful of the marginal costing and absorption costing principle, which I mentioned earlier as your foundation. Because if you forget the environment that the organization is in, then you may calculate fixed overhead variances or variable overhead variances wrongly based on the environment that the entity is operating within. That is very important. Are you getting it? So variance analysis, crucial. Then you come to investment appraisal. As per the current syllabus, this is the final examination date. So there is investment appraisal. In the new syllabus, there is no investment appraisal, but there is investment appraisal here. 10 marks question or 15 mark question waiting for you in the exam hall under investment appraisal. Then under investment appraisal also, you are going to be applying the marginal costing principle, where you are looking at the relevant cost of undertaking the project. So if you pay attention closely, if you understand the marginal costing principle, it helps you in short-term decisions, 20 marks. It helps you in variance analysis, 10 to 15 marks. It helps you in investment appraisal, 10 to 15 marks. Are you seeing it? Then we go to the final part, which is question 1, and that is going to be performance measurement. And that area also, there are a lot of things that we can talk about there. Transfer pricing is there. Divisionalized performance evaluation for each division, where we are using the ROI, return on investment, and RI, residual income, is also there. But when you are making the decision on transfer pricing, the marginal costing principle will chase you there. And so if you realize this is the syllabus, but there are a lot of theories also in management accounting. A lot of theories. Your exam is actually going to be 35-65 on the average, meaning 35% of the questions will be comment or theory questions, while 65 will be calculation questions. So it means that under each of the topics listed, there are theories in there. And so the way you optimize yourself is know the theories under each of the topics. Then when you get to the exam hall, you have to take out all the theories first, even before you get excited in the calculation areas. So management accounting, that's how you're going to be approaching it. So if I know about 30 or 35% of the questions are going to be on theory, you got to read the theories, right? 35%. If you get 20 of that, you do a little calculation, boom, you should be able to pass the examination at the end of the day. That is the idea about management accounting. So if you're writing management accounting, that's the strategy. Know the fundamental principles. Understand how the fundamental principles connect to each of the topical issues in the syllabus. But number 3, about 35% of the questions in the exam hall will be written or comment questions. So pay attention to all the theories under each of the topics that we have listed, because 30 to 35% of your questions will be the theories under these topics. So one thing that I see students do in management accounting is they spend the time doing calculations and ignoring the theory. Or they are like, oh, Nhyira, when I read a theory, I will forget. So I am waiting the 3 days to the exam, or maybe the night before the exam, I will read, then it will be fresh in my head. No. Chances are, when the exam is getting closer, you are likely to be nervous and you will be doing the calculation aspect, ignoring the theory part. And so you have to consciously study the theories and the calculations as you go. consciously study the theories and the calculations as you go. And that is how you position yourself to pass the management accounting examination. Know the fundamental principles, know how they connect to each of the topics in the syllabus. Number 3, understand that there is going to be 35% of your questions or 30% of the questions written or comments. So read all the theories and study alongside like that. So you do some calculations, read the theories. You do some calculations, read the theories. You do some calculations, read the theories. Then my final takeaway on management accounting is everything is about principles. So you have to know the principles. I cannot say anything other than the principles. Because when we come to relevant cost analysis, there are principles. When it comes to make or buy, there are principles. When it comes to break-even analysis, there are principles. When it comes to throughput accounting ratios, there are principles. When it comes to limiting factor analysis, there are principles. So you have to understand the principles pretty well, because in the example, you're going to be applying principles. And the last thing is English language. Management accounting, if you don't understand English, you're going to get zokpo. English language is very important. Because now when I say English language, I'm not talking about what you speak at work, what you speak with your children at home, or what you speak with your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever the heck. I'm talking about your level of comprehension of management accounting terminologies and languages. So if the examiner says, oh, an entity buys inventory, but the inventory is not in constant use. However, the entity will not use this inventory for anything else, but can sell the inventory for this amount of money, then what is the relevant cost of that inventory? Principle. So you have to follow the English and understand this is what the examiner is trying to talk about. So English language is crucial here when we talk about management accounting. And I want you to really be mindful of this. Yes, understand the basic principles, know how they connect to each of the topics. Make sure that you really understand the theories under each of the topics, but make sure you also work on your comprehension of the various terminologies and English that will be used. How do you do that? By exposing yourself to questions. When you expose yourself to questions under time, you're going to do well. Under time, very important. So you set a stop clock. Each 1 mark question is 1.8 minutes. So you set a stop clock and try to train yourself and work with speed and accuracy. If you do that, I can guarantee you will be in a better position to be able to pass the examination. And it is something that I impress on my students a lot, that, hey, listen, management accounting is simple, but if you don't get the fundamentals and you don't know how the fundamentals connect to the topics, and you don't know that there are theories in there, and you don't understand the English language as used in management accounting and the basic principles, you toasted. Like you toasted for real. And so one thing I do is I give my students the opportunity to practice a lot of questions. Last week we had a performance evaluation test, and sometimes it's a challenge. Many people don't participate in some of these things because they are like, oh, I'm studying, when it is time for the exam, we will write. But you're going to go fail the exam. Like you're going to fail. But you are, deceiving yourself. But we move. So management accounting, that is how you study it and optimize yourself to pass the examination. Okay? Let me know if there are any other questions, especially those of you doing management accounting. If there are any follow-up questions on that, I will be glad to answer them. I'm seeing some comments coming in quickly. Now, remember that we are in week 6 for our lectures for the July 2024 examination. And I think my assistant told me we've been receiving some comments on, or some inquiries on, people asking, Nhyira, can I join lectures to write the exams? I say this always, if you have the capacity to study, you have time available to study, then you can join. because our lectures are recorded and accessible in our mobile application, which you can download the videos and watch in our mobile application, as well as on our website. So you can download the mobile application on the Google Play Store or the App Store, Nhyira Premium or on our website, NhyiraPremium.com, and enroll in the course. All lecture videos are recorded and accessible. So if you have the time to go back, watch the playback, and be able to continue, that's okay. All right? That's okay. Especially if you're a fresher, that's okay. But if you think you don't have the time, don't try it. Go in November. You'll be good. Don't go and waste any money. Go in November. Alternatively, you could also join lectures, but not sit for the exam, to help you get the fundamentals, help you get yourself sort of acquainted to the syllabus, and then you go again in August to be able to write the exam in November. So is it too late? It depends on your time availability. If you are doing a recit, then certainly it's not a problem. But I say this always, if you are doing a recit, don't think that you know. So you are waiting to attend whatever intervention class and you'll be good. I can guarantee you will go and fail the exam 99.9% of the time. And the marks you will get will be lower than what you had earlier. Why? Because of complacency. So if you are doing a recit, you are even at risk, because your brain is going to lie to you that, oh, this thing I know. Oh, that thing I know. Oh, this thing I know, but you don't know. But your brain is going to lie to you that because you've studied it before, you know it. So you got to be mindful and still go through the process as though, you are a newbie and you are now starting the studying process. So that's my recommendation there as to whether you can enroll and study now or not. So I'm seeing some comments coming in. Let's see what I can do. I think my shot here is too close. See if I can bring my face in the feed a little bit. Yeah, that's better. What the heck do I have? Enoch said, please, in what order should I write ICA level 2 papers in order to pass at each sitting? Thank you. In what order? I think you're trying to say, like, which subject do you take first? Which subject do you take second? If I'm right in that regard. I don't know. How many subjects do you have in level 2? Are you starting all subjects, or let me know the subject you have, then I can give you some ideas. Enoch, let me know the subject you have, then I can give you some ideas. Good evening, sir. You look great. Thank you, Enoch. So let me know if you're still on the stream. Let me know the subject you are writing. Then I can give you some ideas on how you should write them. Because something like corporate reporting is in level 3. So you want to write FR closer to the end so that the knowledge in FR will help you to be able to do corporate reporting. Then if you have not been exempted from principles of taxation, then you want to write principles of taxation as part of the final sitting so that you take that knowledge to advanced taxation in level 3. I hope you are getting the idea. So let me know which subjects do you have in level 2, then I can give you some ideas there. And that's from Facebook. Edison said, I am writing management accounting. Okay, so Edison, I think I've spoken thoroughly on management accounting and what you're supposed to do. Let me know if there are any follow-up questions you have or some other things that you would want me to share my thought on in respect of management accounting. I will gladly do that for you. What else we got? Let's see. Betha said, I am writing advanced audit and assurance. Ooh, quite an interesting paper there. Right, advanced audit and assurance, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting papers in the level 3 CA examination. But you need to understand, number one, what the heck the syllabus is about generally. And so let me share some thought on advanced audit and assurance quickly. The first thing we need to understand is the exam. How will the advanced audit and assurance examination be? Yeah, we know 5 questions will be there, for 20 marks, 3 hours. Yeah, we know that. But what are the specifics? So a couple of things. Number one, we're going to have a 10 marks question on ethical issues. Now, you got to be careful here. Ethics is in corporate reporting. Ethics is in advanced taxation. Ethics is in strategic case study. And ethics is in advanced audit and assurance. Now, the ethics in advanced audit and assurance is different from ethics in corporate reporting. So you got to be mindful of that. Because in the advanced audit and assurance, we are looking at ethical issues from the perspective of the audit firm and its employees. How independent the audit firm is to be in carrying out their work and how they should adhere to the fundamental code of conduct of the International Federation of Accountants as an auditor or as professionals. And so in that level in ethics, we are looking at, okay, what is the ethical issue in the question? What's the ethical dilemma? What are the threats there? What is the code of conduct being breached? What is the significance of that particular threat? And what will be the mitigating factors that the audit firm or the individual exposed to that threat must undertake or must put in place to mitigate or eliminate those threats? So ethical issues, 10 marks waiting for us in the exam hall. Number two is my personal favorite topic, and that is audit procedures and audit evidence. 20 marks waiting for us in the exam hall, advanced audit and assurance. Audit procedures and audit evidence. Okay, how do we deal with that? Now, audit procedures is very crucial, and that is the 5 vowel sounds: analytical procedures, inquiry, inspection of documents, observation, recalculation, and reperformance. These are the audit procedures, but you got to be careful. Depending on the subject matter in question, we need to ask ourselves, what assertions are being tested here? And the assertion being tested can be grouped into 3 categories. So we have transactions and events. We have account balances at the end of the year. Then we have disclosure and presentation. Under transaction and events, some of the assertions that could be tested include occurrence. Did the transaction take place? In other words, the transactions recorded in the financial statements, did they take place? Number 2, completeness. Has the entity recorded all the transactions in respect of this particular subject matter in question in the financial statement? Number 3, cut off. The transactions recorded in the financial statement, do they all relate to the year ended under review, or there are some transactions that relates to the future which had been quote unquote backdated and brought into the current period? Cut off. Number 4, classification. The transactions that occurred during the year, has the entity properly classified those items in the financial statement? We need to know about that. So occurrence, completeness, cut off, and then classification. We need to understand that. Then the 5th thing is accuracy. Has the entity included the transactions in the financial statements at the appropriate amount? So transactions and events, these are the assertions you are testing for. Then account balances at the reporting date, which means that what you are testing for is on the face of the statement of financial position. Then in that case, you'll be looking at things like right and obligation. Right means, does it belong to the entity? And that is where, if you are writing on assets, so if we are carrying out audit procedures on property, plant, and equipment, audit procedures on inventories, audit procedures on debtors, audit procedures on cash and bank balances, then one of the assertions you'll be testing for is right. Do these belong to the entity? Or if it is one item, does it belong to the entity? Is the entity the one who controls this particular asset? Obligation, on the other hand, will be liabilities, whether the entity actually is the one who owes the liability that we are auditing. So if we are auditing bank loans, we are auditing maybe some debenture notes that the entity had issued, or the entity has leased some assets, then they are recognizing liabilities on the face of the financial position. And so we have to find out, is the obligation the responsibility of the entity or not? We must know about that. So right and obligation. The second thing has to do with valuation. How has the items carried on the face of the financial position, have they been carried at their right value? We need to test that. We need to look at that. Then certainly the issue about classification will still come under this area there. And then completeness will still come there. So transaction and event, we've listed the assertions. Account balances at the reporting date, we've listed the assertions. Then the third part is presentation and disclosure. That will also have the assertions of completeness, accuracy, cut off, and some other principles coming in there. So this is the trick. On that 20 marks area, the examiner may bring you 4 or 3 events. It could be property, plant, and equipment. It could be director's remuneration. It could be whatever, research and development. But this is the trick. Your ability to know the accounting standards will help you to know how to write out the audit procedures. So this is where audit and corporate reporting comes together. And that is why I recommend that if you are writing audit reporting, you should go with corporate reporting, because the accounting standards there will help you to be able to deal with some of the issues under audit procedures. This is the trick. If as an auditor, you are auditing leases, as an auditor, you have to know how leases are to be accounted for in accordance with IFRS 16. Because if you don't know the accounting standard, then what will you be looking out for as an auditor? Do you get a trick here? So in accordance with IFRS 16, how should leases be accounted for? Then that is going to be backdrop at the back of your mind to help you in writing out the audit procedures about which assertions will you have to test for. Then you now take that back to the procedures to undertake. Do I have to perform analytical procedures? Yes, you have to make enquiries. For almost all the items, you make some enquiries internally, that is within the organization, or externally from other key stakeholders. So if we are auditing, let's say bank balances, or we are auditing bank loans, you will inquire from management the reasons for the loan, the documents of the loan, and inspect those documents. But you have to also receive confirmation from the bank. So you inquire from the bank, is the entity having any loan? How much is the loan? What is the nature of the loan? Was it secured or unsecured? Was it is it a loan that the entity is due to be paid, or what? Like, we must understand that. So enquiry is going to be core in whichever audit procedure subject matter the examiner brings you, because you will make some enquiry either internally or externally. Then inspection of documents. I think I mentioned that already. Not all subject matter will require inspection of documents or physical examination of the assets, but some will require that. Then observation. This is where the auditor sits down to look at how things are done within the organization, like attending an inventory count. The auditor is there just to find out whether the inventory count is done properly and whether the value that they place on the closing inventory actually reflects the value of the inventories in accordance with IAS 2 inventories, right? Recalculation and reperformance. In some cases, the auditor would have to recalculate the figures on the face of the financial statement, maybe a depreciation, maybe an amortization, maybe a tax figure that has been calculated. That is recalculation. Reperformance means the auditor is going to be re-preparing the financial statement. So audit procedure, 20 marks area, you must understand AEIOU. That should be the backdrop. But before you come there, you need to ask yourself, okay, what assertions am I testing? In other words, the thing that the examiner is asking me to look at our audit procedures on, what is it? Is it a transaction or an event that occurred during the year, or it is an account balance at the reporting date, or it is something that they should have disclosed or not in the financial statements? Once you know where what you are looking at belongs, then you will know the assertions that you have to test for. Then the assertions to be tested for will now guide you on how you write out the audit procedures, connecting it with any accounting standard that is applicable to the subject matter that you are asked in the context of the question. Does that make sense? So that is the idea about audit procedures. 20 marks waiting for you in the exam hall. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this. It's pretty easy, but quite technical, right? Quite technical. So that's the second part. The third part is, another favorite area of mine, and that is audit reporting. Crucial. 15 marks minimum, 20 marks if the examiner gets goosebumps. And I love goosebumps, so maybe 20 marks for you in July 2024. But audit reporting, very crucial, because, at the end of the period, we have to issue an auditor's report. So what opinion do we express? We have the modified auditor's report or modified auditor's report. In each of these, the auditor can express an unqualified opinion, which means everything is okay. A qualified opinion, which means everything is okay with the exception of a diverse opinion, which means nothing is okay. The whole financial statement do not represent the fair value or the fair view of the entity. Or disclaimer opinion. This is where the auditor says, I cannot express an opinion on the financial statement. Why? Probably because the auditor was not able to gather sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So audit opinions. But then it is important we understand that the modification of audit opinion depends on a number of things: materiality of the event in question, then pervasiveness, whether the item or what is the degree of effect that the item has on the financial statement. So materiality, number one; pervasiveness, the degree of its effect on the financial statement; and number three, the entities or the auditor's ability to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence. So if something is material but not pervasive, then the auditor will issue an except for opinion. It's material, but it's not pervasive. It means it doesn't affect the whole financial statement. If it is material and pervasive, then the auditor is going to be issuing a diverse opinion, which means the financial statement taken as a whole does not represent the true and fair view of the entity. Number three, if it is material and the auditor is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence on the item and is considered pervasive as well, then the auditor is likely to issue a disclaimer opinion that I cannot express any opinion on this financial statement. So audit reporting, 15 marks minimum, 20 marks if the examiner gets goosebumps. But under that, there is going concern, there is subsequent events, and then there are other issues that we need to understand there. But keenly, it's about reporting another area. So ethics, number one; audit procedures, number two; and then the third thing is going to be audit reporting. The fourth thing is going to be public sector audit, because it's primary, it's crucial. In the public sector, we carry out audit as well in the public sector. And so it's an area that we can have a 15-mark question, depending on how excited the examiner is, or 20 marks. If the examiner doesn't like it, then 10 marks. But there are a couple of things here. You must understand the role of key public officers in achieving value for money, like Public Accounts Committee, like Internal Audit Agency, like the Auditor General, the Controller Accountant General. All of these big guys, their role in ensuring that the entity achieve value for money, or we achieve value for money in the public sector. You must know about that. Number two, it's going to be the types of public sector auditing. So we have the financial audit, which is the auditing of the financial statement; compliance audit, which is to assess whether the covered entity in question is adhering to the laws that were used to establish it, to their own internal controls, as well as to the directives issued by the Ministry of Finance, Controller, Accountant General, Auditor General. In that case, that is compliance audit. And then performance audit. This one is undertaken after the execution or completion of an activity, and the goal is to identify whether the entity achieved value for money in the execution of that contract. How contract was awarded. Was the contract awarded in accordance with Public Procurement Act? Right? That is performance audit in that case. So when we are doing financial audit, there's an element of compliance, there is an element of performance. These are the three types of auditing in the public sector. And then there are other issues there that we need to understand in respect of what factors must we consider as a private audit firm in accepting an audit in the public sector. Like recently, the president appointed KPMG to review GRA and SML contract, which they requested for an additional time, which was granted, and they issued a report sent to the president on the SML and GRA contract. And so what factors should an audit firm like, say, KPMG had taken into consideration before accepting that nomination from the president to carry out the audits or the review of the SML and the GRA contract? We must know about that as well going into the exam hall, because it's in our syllabus. So these are the 4 key issues, right? Ethics, audit procedure, audit evidence, reporting, and then public sector auditing. However, there are a couple of other topics that will help us to really understand all these, and one of them is audit planning and risk assessment. And this is an important topic in audit and assurance because it helps us to understand business risks and audit risks. Depending on how excited the examiner is, you may have a 10 marks question on one of these in the exam hall. Business risks is about the entity, the client, what they are doing. Okay, what they are doing. Audit risk is from the perspective of the auditor, and this is where we are looking at what the entity has done and its implication on the financial statement. So what the entity is doing, its implication on the financial statement, and what procedures can we or must we undertake as auditors in order to gather sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. So audit planning, risk assessment, crucial topic, fundamental, I have to say, for you to understand. Then the next thing is going to be acceptance of engagement. Pretty important. It's a fundamental topic. You want to make sure you read it. Money laundering, fundamental topic. Make sure you read it. Quality control, fundamental topic. Make sure you read it. But thematically, ethics, audit procedure, audit reporting, public sector auditing. These are the 4 key things that is going to be holding us down in the exam hall. But to excel in these 4 key things, we need quality control, we need acceptance of engagement, we need audit planning and risk assessment, and we need to understand the principle of money laundering. Because sometimes in the audit procedure question, the 20 marks, one of the events will relate to a subject matter which we have to use the principles for money laundering to be able to answer that particular question. So it's important we understand money laundering as well, and their quality control, that is HALEM. The elements that must be present in the quality control systems that an audit firm puts in place: human resource, acceptance of engagement, the issues in respect of leadership, monitoring, and all of those things. We must understand these in much detail. So better about audit procedure, these are the things that you must understand and how you have to position yourself. As I mentioned, this is purely a written paper, so you're not going to have any luxury to do any calculation here. So you need to work on a couple of things. Number one is your understanding of the syllabus. You have to understand the syllabus well. Then number 2 is to know when to write what. In other words, understand the phrases, the terminologies that the examiner uses for the context of the question and what you should write in your answers. And certainly number 3, work on your grammar. Because it is a written paper, you need to work on your grammar. Now, my students, very interesting session with my students always. Sometimes I read some of the English and I'm like, geez, man, what kind of English is this? Right? And then some people would digress totally from the question. So, you need to understand the terminology. So, for instance, if the examiner says, identify the audit risks and the auditor's response, what does that mean? Okay, we've discussed that audit risks means we are looking at the operations, what the entity is doing, and its implication on the financial statement. Now, anytime the examiner asks what should be an auditor's response, it is a code word for, or a code phrase for, audit procedure, because the auditor responds to things that has been identified by carrying out or performing some procedures. So yes, understand the scope of the syllabus. Yes, understand the materials in the syllabus, but you have to also be mindful of the context of the questions and work on your grammar. Work on your write-up. Work on your answering. I would not suggest that you go and download ICA past questions, or you pick the ICA question kit, read the questions and read the solution. That is not your English. You cannot write that. And that is what I tell my students always. That, hey, listen, if we are in class and we are answering a question and you want me to write the answers down for you so you copy, it's not going to help you. It's not. I'd rather give you the principles so that you phrase it yourself. You write it yourself. Then we can polish you. And over the period, by the time you get to the exam hall, you are polished and you know how to express yourself. So there is a trap that if you're not careful, you will think, oh, I'm learning audit, and all you are doing is you read a question, then you read a solution. You read a question, then you read a solution. The solutions you read are not your English. That's not your diction. That's not your brain. So whatever you do, you have to make sure you come up with your own. So even if you read a question, write your answers down. Okay? And then try to compare it with the answer provided in the book. Now, how do you know if what you have written is okay to be marked by the examiner? That is where you have to be in a good community. And definitely if you're attending lectures at somewhere that there is that community available, then you can be guided better. And as I mentioned earlier, that's what I do to my students. You write, we come on the live stream, in the live call, and I bring up your script. Then we discuss it together and we laugh. You see the kind of English you're writing? You see, pimpana nana English people are writing. Then, like, we discuss it together, but we polish. Then you see that, okay, the next one they will do, they are getting it better a little. The next one, it's becoming better. So by the time we are ready to go into the exam hall, you have become a little polished than the raw person that came in from session one. And so that is something crucial that I would want to leave with you better, and then everyone else writing advanced audit and assurance. Yes, understand the scope of the syllabus, the context of the examination, the terminologies of the examiner. Make sure you understand the fundamental issues in the syllabus, but work on your English, your ability to comprehensively write out answers that can be understood. Because sometimes my students, when we are going through the scripts, I ask them, hey, so what the heck do you mean here? Then they will explain what they are trying to say. Then I'm like, okay. But you see, then I tell them this always that, hey, you're not going to get that luxury in the exam hall, because when the markers are marking their script, they don't call the student and be like, hey, by the way, or they drive to your house and say, hey, by the way, Kukua, this thing, what were you saying, for you to explain? So you need to structure your answers in such a manner that when it is read, it will be simply understood by anybody reading it. But if you write an answer that the person has to query what you are trying to say, then you're going to get Zokbo. Does that make sense? You're going to get Zokbo. Definitely, you're going to get Zokbo. So that is the idea about that better, about advanced audit and assurance. Let me know if that is helpful for you there. What else do I have? I see some of you guys joining. You are welcome. Any questions you have for me, put them in the comment section. We are looking at subjects and how you can study, key issues you have to focus on to optimize yourself in passing the examination. So let me know in the comment section which subject you are writing, and then let me provide you with some ideas on what you got to do. Enoch said management accounting, financial management, and principles of taxation. Oh, these are the papers you have. Then that's not a problem. You can write them in whatever the heck order you want to write them. I mean, there's no problem here. Okay. You can write them in whatever order, because the knowledge in management accounting and financial management, you may need them in strategic case study. It depends on the objective of the examiner for that particular examination diet, but you may need them in strategic case study. Principles of taxation, everything there, you will need it as a fundamental for advanced taxation in level 3. So maybe if you are going for 2 papers, you can write the management accounting and the financial management, because there is investment appraisal in the 2, and that is a 20-mark area, all other things being equal, coming in from the 2. So there'll be investment appraisal in management accounting, there'll be investment appraisal in financial management. Again, this is in the context of the July examination, because from July, if you are watching this video after July 2024, the scope of management accounting syllabus has changed. So this is for the July exam exclusively. So you can do FM and MA together, or do MA and principles of taxation together. This way, there is no much difference, just 3 subjects. You can write them in whichever order to optimize yourself in that regard, because each of them is loaded. I have to say that principles of taxation is not a joke. I mean, there are a lot of calculations in there and theories. Financial management, not a joke, calculation and theory. Man accounting, not a joke, calculation and theory. So you can come in whichever way you want to go, and you should be good. Okay, you should be good. What else do I have? Let me see my time, because I have lectures, so that my students, we have live lectures as well this evening. Okay, 5:30. Let's see if I can take the last one, then probably Friday we'll come and look at the rest of the questions if I have to come on Friday. Okay, I think I'll be able to deal with the rest of the questions. Henry Boatin said, I'm writing public sector accounting and finance. I think I spoke about this on Monday, if you were on the stream, but public sector accounting and finance, very simple to pass. I don't know. Very, very simple. I think it's one of the simplest papers to pass in the level 2. That's my personal opinion. And it's true, right? What does that mean? All right. So question 1 is going to be on conceptual framework, 20 marks. What the heck is under that? Measurement basis, historical cost, fair value, replacement cost, net realizable value. Number 2, accounting basis, cash basis, accrual basis, modified cash basis, modified accrual basis. Accounting techniques, these are the approaches: vote accounting, commitment accounting, fund accounting, environmental accounting. Right? Number 4, talking about issues in respect of qualitative characteristics of financial statement: relevance, faithful representation, verifiability, understandability, timeliness, qualitative characteristics of financial statement. And then we can bring in some Ipsos issues there in question 1. So these are the 5 things in question 1, 20 marks waiting for you in the exam hall. 2 of them will be there: measurement basis, accounting basis, accounting techniques, qualitative characteristics of financial statement. These 4, 2 of them will be there waiting for you, whether I like it or not. So that is question 1. You must understand everything there. Very sweet, simple, straight to the point. Then you come to question 2, which is financial statement preparation. And to excel in that question 2 area, which I recommend you answer as your last but one question in the exam hall. You don't want to answer that question first, because it's a calculation question. It's going to require a lot of time. So prepare your brain in such a manner that you answer that question as your last but one question in the exam hall. But let's go. Question 2. Here we'll be asked to prepare financial statement. What kind of financial statements? All right. In accordance with Ipsos 1, preparation of financial statements, we can be asked to prepare the statement of financial performance and the statement of financial position. We could also be asked to prepare the statement of cash flow, right? And also the statement of budget performance if the entity presents a separate statement of budget comparison with actual in accordance with Ipsos. We could be asked that. That is question 2. But this is the trick. To excel in that question 2 area, there are a couple of topics that you need to understand. Very important. The first one is revenue management and expenditure control. Please, again, this discussion is valid for July 2024, right? Because there is a lot of changes coming in public sector in the new syllabus. So if you are watching this video after July 2024, be measured in some of the things, because procurement is no longer in the syllabus, public-private partnership is no longer in the syllabus, public sector budgeting is no longer in the syllabus. All of these have been spread across a lot of the other subjects under the new syllabus that will be effective from November 2024. So be mindful of that if you are watching this video after July 2024. But let's go back to Henry. So we're looking at revenue management and expenditure control, fundamental issue. 2. Now, the reason you need a revenue management and expenditure control is to be able to understand the sources of revenue to the central government and to the covered entities. That is crucial for you to understand. Number 2 is to talk about the issue in respect of the IPSAS. There are a couple of IPSAS that you need to understand as you are walking into the examination. Now, if you're watching this video after July 2024, IPSAS is crucial. You're going to get a dedicated 20-mark question in the exam or on the IPSAS. Right? So be mindful of that. But July 2024, you must understand a couple of IPSAS. The first one is IPSAS 23. That is revenue from non-exchange transaction. IPSAS 9, revenue from exchange transaction. IPSAS 16, property, plant, and equipment. IPSAS 2, inventories. And IPSAS 4, accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates, and errors. So for starters, these IPSAS, you have to understand them. For starters. So once you understand revenue management and expenditure control and these IPSAS, you can 95% excel in that question 2 area. Then we come to question 3. This is where we are looking at PIFA, Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability Framework, and then evaluation of financial statements. Okay, so PIFA, 10-mark question waiting for us in the exam hall. Again, if you're watching this video after July 2024, be mindful, because that PIFA is now going to be in financial management under the new syllabus. But for July 2024, PIFA is there. We must understand it. Then ratios, evaluation of financial statement. There are 3 models that can be used to evaluate the financial statement. We can use common size analysis, where you are changing the financial statement into percentages. And in the statement of financial performance, we are using total revenue as the basis. In the statement of financial position, we are using total assets as the basis. Or we can use ratio analysis, where we will calculate various ratios, one of which is, the debt to GDP ratio, the vice president's favorite ratio, debt to GDP. The vice president's favorite ratio. Yeah, where you're going to be doing the ratios. So you calculate the ratios and then you interpret the ratios, right? Then you come to the third one, and that is the budget variance analysis. This is where you look at the outstand by comparing the revised budget with the actual, so you can get the outstand. Then you do analysis of what is happening in that particular case. So that is question 3. Question 4, public procurement, and then public-private partnership arrangement. Question 5 is a no man's land area. There will be 10-mark question on public procurement, 10-mark question on public-private partnership in question 4, right? And then question 5 is a no man's land area. Anything else left in the syllabus will be dumped by the examiner literally in question 5. So it's a huge area. So to optimize yourself to pass the examination, question 1, crucial, conceptual framework, 20 marks. PIFA, crucial, 10 marks coming in for the July examination, right? Then public-private partnership arrangement. Make sure you understand everything there. Public procurement is it's a lot. Thank God it's being taken out from, how do we call it, public sector, and put into another subject. But public procurement for July examination, it's a lot. Make sure you go through them. And then certainly the question 5 area will be any other thing left in the syllabus. Optimization, as I said, understand everything in question 1. Understand your PIFA well. Understand public-private partnership arrangement well. Understand revenue management and expenditure control, the role of key public officers, and all of those things. Then prepare your brain in such a manner that when you get to the exam hall, you're going to take away all the ones you can answer best first, the written ones that you can answer best first. Once you take them out, you can go to the ratios or the evaluation of financial statements, and then you can do the question 2, which is the final account, as the last question or the last but one question. So Henry, that is the idea about public sector accounting and finance. What else do I have? Isaac said, I am writing costing and budgetary control. I think I've spoken about this in the beginning because it's in management accounting. So there's no need for me to repeat that. Good day, Nhyira Premium. I will be joining you people on November dates. Okay. You are just preaching accounting and not teaching, and what's the name? Give me a sec, let me see. You were just preaching accounting, not teaching, and I love this. Okay, well done, sir. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, it's normal, right? It's like you see Cristiano Ronaldo play or Messi play. It's what they have been doing. So this is my field. I've been doing it for over a decade, so you should expect that kind of thing, right? So that's it about that. But that's it in that regard. So thank you guys for joining me. I'll be wrapping up here today, and God willing, Friday I'll come again for us to close it up because there are other subjects. So now we've looked at public sector, we looked at management accounting, we've looked at advanced audit and assurance. So there are other subjects. We've looked at financial reporting and corporate reporting. We discussed that on Monday. And so Friday, I'm going to be coming your way for us to look at the other subjects if you are writing. And also we'll be taking some questions from you on the live stream. So thank you guys for joining me. Really excited. Those of you with a thumbs up on the video, sharing the video and engaging with us, we really appreciate it. That is the way we are able to grow the community and reach as many students as possible. Remember, you can visit our website, nhyirapremium.com, and read about our programs or enroll in our program. Or you can download the Nhyira Premium mobile application on the Google Play Store if you are Android, or the App Store if you are Apple, that is iPhone, and download the application, enroll in the course. Let me hold your hand, provide you with the mentorship that you require so you can go to the exam hall, write the exam with confidence, and most importantly, pass the examination. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you 4:30 p.m. GMT on Friday as we continue with this discussion. Take care.